What's up, everybody? It's your boy Season. So today, in honor of the fact that the Gundam in Yokohama has ended, it ended on the 31st, which was yesterday. I just wanted to actually show some footage, more footage that I've already shown on the channel about the whole experience as far as going to Yokohama to see it. So, of course, first, we're walking up, and you have to go from the train station. And the train station, I would say it's probably about a 10-minute walk. It's not too far. Now, when we went on a perfect day. So it was kind of like mid afternoon. So I would say it was probably like, it was about 2 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And, so we're walking up there. And as you can see, you can kind of see the Gundam from far off. And I always thought that that was a really, really good shot. So I actually started recording when we were actually walking up to the Gundam. And so, once you actually kind of get into by the harbor, because that's kind of where the Gundam was, it was on a harbor, and you would walk through there. It'd probably take you about another 8 minutes, 8 to 10 minutes to kind of get up to the front to where you could buy your tickets. Now, it has been about 6 to 8 months since I actually went, so I actually don't remember what the prices were, but I want to say that they were probably between like 15 and $20 to get in. And then I know in order to go up to the top where you could actually see the Gundam close up was about $30 extra. So we opted to go with that. I went with like three people, three other people, including myself. And so for me, I had actually, the story of us even going starts way back in 2019. If you've seen my So You Want to Go to Japan video, I plan my trips probably about a year in advance at least. And so in 2019, we were going to go. This was going to be the second time that I went to Japan. And we were going in 2020. And 2020 was actually before all of the craziness that happened in 2020. It was going to be the Olympics in Tokyo. And also, I remember that they had built the moving Gundam it seemed like for that event. And so we definitely wanted to go and see it then. But of course, in like early December of 2019, I started to hear rumblings of some sort of sickness that was going throughout Asia that started in China. And so, of course, I kept tabs on it as time went through. I usually, when we go to Japan, I tend to go in big groups. And so when so I kept tabs on it, but I didn't really think anything of it because I was like, well, it hasn't really hit Japan yet, but I was keeping an eye on it. And then probably about early January of 2020, I started to notice that people were starting to get sick in Japan as well. And I was like, oh, this isn't good, right? And so that sickness ended up being COVID. And of course, as we all have lived through, that kind of spread throughout the world. And so we actually had to cancel our trip in 2020. A lot of people weren't comfortable with going. I wasn't necessarily comfortable with going. And then Japan ended up closing the country, as most countries did uh, when all of that stuff went down. So that was kind of how that all began. So they were actually going to, if I remember correctly, they were actually going to shut down the Gundam, the moving Gundam in 2022. I think it was either 2021 or 2022. And it was interesting because I didn't think I was actually going to get a chance to see it because it was only going to be a temporary thing, from what I understand. It wasn't supposed to be a 3 or 4 year event that it ended up being. And so 2023 came around, and we knew that for a fact that we were going to go to Japan. Everything was safe. We didn't have to worry about COVID anymore and all of that kind of stuff. And they decided to extend the moving Gundam until 2024. And so I was extremely ecstatic about that. So when we finally got there and we started going through, And so that was kind of like the story about how it actually how everything kind of led up to us going to see the Gundam in the first place. Now, of course, I had seen the Gundam Unicorn in 2018. That was a magical experience, but I never thought I was actually going to chance to get to see the moving Gundam. I also didn't get a chance to see the original RX-78 too that they had in Odaiba because I hadn't gone to Japan yet. And so I thought that this was going to be a really good treat to go. So when we went, it was perfect weather, a perfect day out. To be honest, there wasn't that many people there. I would say there might have been maybe like 40 to 50 people in there. And it was a awe-inspiring experience to see something that was that big and to see it actually move was something that I never truly thought that I would see. Gundam for me has kind of been like the main anime of my adulthood. I didn't really start watching Gundam till I was an adult. And so for me, I've always held Gundam in high regard because it is a series and a franchise that I've followed pretty much from the time I was in my early 20s till now, when I'm in my late 30s, early 40s. So for me, it's something that I always look forward to doing when I go to Japan. Now, my journey with Gundam started with Gundam Wing, just like everybody else in the United States. But for me personally, I didn't actually like Gundam Wing all that much, and to be honest, I really still don't like it all that much. I think it's kind of boring, but that's sacrilege to people in America who actually love Gundam Wing. But for me, my journey started with Gundam Seed, and I remember seeing it on television uh, in my early 20s, and I thought it was very, very interesting. I liked that whole world, and I had made the decision in 2004, 2004, 2005 that I was going to try to make it to Japan. I didn't know how, I didn't know when. And as someone who's just kind of starting out in his adulthood, I didn't necessarily know when it was going to happen. And it actually didn't end up happening for almost 14 years after I made that proclamation. But for me, I knew for a fact that I was going to go to Japan. And then was a avid model builder. I started my model building journey in the early 2000s and pretty much have been building, even though I do way more collecting than building now, but I still build on occasion. And all of that I kind of owe to the Gundam franchise in general. And for me, it's kind of interesting to see this go away. Now, I can only speculate as to far as what they will do next. I know that they had the ending ceremony in Japan yesterday. I actually ended up watching the whole stream, and they did a really, really good, nice fireworks thing at the end. They had stuff from Gundam Seed in there. They had stuff from Witch of Mercury in there, and Universal Century and all of that. And so it was a really, really good event. But I kind of just wanted to throw in my 2 cents as far as what Gundam actually means to me personally. And it is the one franchise that I still keep up with. I've loved Dragon Ball. I've loved a lot of different franchises throughout the years, and even though I still hold a lot of those franchises in good regard, Gundam has kind of taken over as my primary uh, anime that I still watch no matter how old I get. And so, for me, as far as going to see it in real life, all I can say is if you didn't get a chance to go, you truly missed out on something. But I do believe that what they will do is they will replace it with something that's even better. Now, the whole kind of like technical part of seeing uh, the moving Gundam was interesting, right? Because you don't really get a chance to see it when you're on the ground. But we also went up to the top and we saw it pretty much, pretty much about 10 to 20 feet in front of you. And it's very, very interesting to look down at the ground and see the people. And you don't really get a good grasp of how big these Gundams are in these shows. And I would say it was probably about the height of a 3 or 4 story building. It may actually, I may be selling that a little short, actually, but it's extremely big. Now, I was interested to see how they were going to be able uh, to if it was going to actually be able to walk under its own power. And it does not look like, based on what I saw, that it actually is able to do that. If you think about the Gundam model kits and you see how, um, like, when you put them on a stand and how they connect kind of like to the back of the back skirt or uh, the undergroin of the midsection, that's kind of how this Gundam was connected. And it wasn't actually on the ground. And you can see it better when you're actually looking down to the ground when you're at the top. And what it is, it almost looks like it's floating. It's almost floating in thin air. But what it is, there was a big old contraption that was connected to its back. And so it was able to do all those movements and all of that pretty much like being propped up. So it's actually not on the ground when you're doing that. And I think probably the only reason why that is the case is because in order to have that stand and move on its own weight, I can't imagine the amount of money that that would take in order to get that to work. It would cost millions upon billions of dollars, I would imagine, to try to get that to actually work. And then if you're talking about flying around and stuff, which I honestly, I don't, that's probably the next major thing to get it to fly around. I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine how much uh, resources it would take, and the fact that they got this up and got it up relatively quickly after it was announced. I think it was announced back in either like 2018 or 2019, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, I'm going off of memory here, so my numbers or my times may be inaccurate, but that's when I remember hearing about it, was that they were doing it for the Olympics in 2020. And it was only supposed to be there for that year or that year and a half. And then it was supposed to go away. So, but the fact that COVID happened and all that other stuff, so we got a chance to finally get a chance to see it. So, for me, with Gundam, I always hold Gundam near, and I will continue to do so. But I kind of wanted to give a salute to the Gundam as they get ready to take it down, and hopefully, I'm sure that the people at Bandai and Sunrise, and all the people who are involved, will get a chance to make something even more. Even better. And I think that if you are a fan of Gundam, I'm not going to say it's an obligation, but I would definitely say that you are doing yourself a disservice if, when the next one doesn't come out, that you go and see. I say pretty much any anime fan in general, but specifically for Gundam, if you are a Gundam fan, I mean, you're like a diehard fan, not a casual fan, but a diehard fan. Like, you've been following Gundam for, a decade and a half or whatever the case may be. Um, do yourself a favor and make sure whenever they announce the next one that you plan a trip around going to see it, because a it definitely is a spectacle to see. I could say probably the only thing that I could even compare it to is maybe if you saw like a that'd be like me seeing Michael Jordan for the first time. This is someone that I was raised with throughout the 80s and 90s, and to finally see this person face to face, you're kind of you're kind of awestruck. And it's kind of the same way with Gundam. With me, when I saw the unicorn for the first time, I was almost speechless. And then seeing this, even though it was the second time I had been to Japan, it was definitely a treat to see. So definitely, if you are thinking about going to Japan, definitely get a chance to go see that. From what I understand, the unicorn is still up. You also have the new Gundam in Fukuoka, I think. You still have those two up, so you can go see. But of course, those don't move. But definitely, if you go to Japan, definitely check those out. So I just wanted to give my 2 cents on the fact that the Gundam in Yokohama was closing. So salute, farewell, and I guess we'll see what happens next. So, anyways, I just thought I would share my thoughts. And thank you guys for watching the video. And I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.